All right, now we are getting into the fun bit. And at the same time, the hardest bit. We're going to talk about what the most difficult part of the job is. No doubt about it. Doesn't matter what level you are inside of this profession, you're going to experience difficulties in this particular aspect. By far, the hardest part of the job is finding the work. And it gets easier as you go along, but it's always a challenge. It's always difficult. Every time you level up, there will be new obstacles. But especially at the start, it's the hardest because it's the old catch-22 of you need the experience in order to get the jobs, but you need the jobs in order to get the experience. So fear not if you are having a difficult time right now. The good thing is it never gets harder than it is right now for you. Doesn't matter what part of the journey you're on, doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. The longer that you stay, the easier it gets. The larger the network grows, which we're going to talk about. The better you get at networking, the better you get at marketing your own projects and building the network that will allow you to form new relationships with new people because the network gets bigger, new people are brought in, you work with new crews, you work with new producers and directors, and those ways lead on to ways. So it will never be more difficult than it is right now, but that's not to say that it's not difficult right now. It is. It sucks. It's the hardest part. And it will be the hardest part no matter what, right? The technical, the creative, the managerial side of things that we talked about in the previous chapter, those are difficult, but it's finding the work that will separate cinematographers. The more work that you get, the more experimental you can be, the farther you can push things, the greater you know the tools, the more opportunities for management experience. There's really no end to it. This, if you take anything away from this entire course, it is focusing on finding the work. And we're going to explore some ways I think that you can put your best foot forward. You can put yourself in the best position to gain as much access to the people that will end up employing cinematographers. And we're going to talk about that in this section entitled The Work. You know, one of the great things about cinematography is there really is no path. There's no path that you have to go down. You don't have to go to school for 8 years and then come out and do another 4 in residency. You can call yourself a cinematographer now, having never shot anything. You can call yourself whatever you want. There's no real title as long as you can get the job done and you can get or meet or exceed expectations. You can call yourself whatever you want. Now, the path to being successful is interesting because there are so many different variants. Some people will start out as assistants and they'll work their way up through the camera team. Some people start in lighting and they work their way up that way. Some people, especially now that the tools are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and the barrier to entry is getting lower and lower, now you're having people just start shooting. And that is what I would recommend here. I won't go into great detail about this now, but I would recommend shoot as much stuff as you can, but be objective in that department. When you look at the stuff, you have to be objective, but we're getting off track now. So the thing to remember is because there's no set path in cinematography, you can find yourself at the same level as someone else who's taken longer to get there, taken shorter to get there, has done 100 jobs, has done 10 jobs. There's no set path for elevating the jobs that you're working on or accelerating your career. And basically what I'm doing in this course is trying to lay out the best way that I know how to do it. It's not the best way set in concrete. This is how it has to be forever. It's just what I found has worked. Some stuff for me hasn't worked. Some stuff has worked really well. And that's what I'm going to talk about here when I talk about getting the work, because this is, again, such an important part of cinematography because this allows you to do everything else. Unless you're going to hire yourself, unless you're going to be your own producer, you need to find ways to build a network that will employ you and do so hopefully on a steady basis in jobs that you're interested in, at a rate that you are interested in, that you're happy, that you can fulfill some of your creative desires and your technical desires and get that experience in the management to help you move up. It's such tricky waters to navigate that sometimes it can feel depressing. Sometimes you can feel down if you see other people around you who are succeeding. But like I said, there's so many different paths. One job can take you to the next level, or it could take 100 jobs. There really is no set path to where you want to get to. As long as you think about those objectives and you're clear and you work towards your goals in the short term and the midterm, you'll find yourself there. You just have to understand that this takes time. It's not easy to do. And although finding jobs gets easier as your network grows, it's never going to be a hard science. There's always going to be some sort of luck involves some sort of right place, right time. And you'd be surprised how many jobs just go away, or other cinematographers are up for them and they get them, or the job completely falls apart, or the dates gets moved and you can't shift, or somebody comes on that doesn't want to work with you, or something like that. It just happens all the time. So not only is getting the work the most difficult part, but also maintaining those relationships is a challenge, because you're going to hear a lot of no's. And you may not even hear it to your face, but you're going to get rejected again and again and again. And as long as you just keep doing it, as long as you just keep showing up, keep producing work, keep trying to find ways to elevate your game, you'll find that it pays off, and that eventually you will crack through, and things, just like a snowball, you start to build momentum inside the industry. And as soon as you work with one crew, something will come up. A producer will have seen that, a director will have seen that, an editor will recommend you because you shot the last job that they edited. It's weird how it works, but it all comes together eventually. But just know that you just have to push through this hard part. And although it gets easier, it's never a simple process getting the work. So never something that you can take your eye off of. You should always be focusing on, how can I put my best foot forward to make myself as employable as possible, right? You want to be easy to find. You want to have that good attitude on set. You want people to like you. You want to be a problem solver. You want to take the workload off of individuals around you and make it a smoother process, make it a smoother production, make it a smoother transition from one cinematographer to you. And as long as you keep that up and you make it a fun experience and an enjoyable experience for everybody, not just the crew, but the director, the agency, the client, the producer, all of those individuals, if you can take into account the best interest there, you'll find yourself much more employable than if you didn't. The big takeaway from this section is that the work will come and it will go, and you'll try and decipher why in one period you're really hot and why in another you don't get a phone call for a few months. But just know that that it comes in waves. It doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter how many big things you've done. You'll eventually feel that wave of slowing, and you just can't get hung up on it, right? You have to focus on the things that you do have control of, which is getting better on the technical side, getting better on the creative side, working on your management skills, and then making the most out of every opportunity you get, because every opportunity is another chance to improve the network, get the word out about the skills, and deliver or over deliver on the expectations. And that will help you and make you more employable in the future.